good morning.
Good morning. Do you want me to start it off? Or?
Yes, sir.
All right. Busy week with finances. Starting things off with Avery Lane. Ann and myself had a conversation with our legal counsel yesterday about the bill of sale and some contract stuff, and I think I really wish I would have brought Ann in sooner. She is an expert in all things real estate. It was really a thing to watch actually yesterday on the phone with our lawyer and all the things she's checking, and we'll hopefully have more to report next week on the kind of progress on that piece.
Can you hear now, Michelle?
I can, yeah.
All right. So for some reason I hit mute. Would you be able to say that once again?
Sure.
Well, good. Patrick just walked in too, so this is good.
We met with legal counsel yesterday about the Avery Lane pieces of the bill of sale and all the stuff that we have to sign and go through. I was just saying Ann was spectacular. I wish I would have brought her in a little earlier on the process, but she knows all things real estate. And really, I think we've got our ducks in a row. We've got some follow-ups on that. Hopefully we'll have more to update next week. FEMA conversations continue. We met with them on Thursday. We're meeting with them every Thursday just for any and every piece, including our staff time, anything that's was damaged from the storm, any potential mitigations so that we can improve things with a 70% coverage from the feds or the state. We're getting in there. We're meeting every single Thursday now with them, and really taking advantage of that program to make sure that the city gets its money and doesn't have to spend taxpayer resources on those pieces. So a lot of progress there. I think there's still some question marks on, hey, does the cupola qualify for that? It's we're being very honest and transparent. It's not the first time that has leaked. There was some damage from that. We're doing things. Does that qualify for your mitigation, or is it just kind of repairs? So Jim's doing a big inventory on that. All the public works folks, pretty much across the board, police time, fire time, our staff time. It's a big project to kind of figure out all the paperwork behind that to make sure that we put in everything. I know a lot of staff are putting in, but we really feel like it's important during these next 6 weeks to get all those things together. On beautification, we're meeting actually later today with all the people involved in that process. It looks like we I think we figured out the budgeting and kind of what was budgeted before, what we have, the vendor, but we're getting everybody together to kind of do a final sort of budgeting for this season and looking towards next season as well. So this is kind of a smaller issue, and I mentioned it I think 2 times ago, but earlier, I think in December, maybe early January, one of our snowplows hit a car. They're still waiting for the car to get back. It's in the shop. Our insurance, their insurance paid for a certain amount of rental times, and then it ran out. So we ended up covering their an additional month of their rental, which is probably about $2,100. But and just heard back from our legal counsel, Mr. Hamer, and was saying we're kind of, it was totally our fault, whether it's the insurance or not. We need to kind of keep this coverage going until they get their car back. And in addition, I think it's the right thing to do. So hopefully we'll have some more updates on that. Sue, our great tax collector, actually has an insurance background, and so she's really getting that project to fruition. On the congressionally directed spending and sort of grants front, I know our teams have been doing a great job of making sure to get kind of our final pieces in there. I think probably the biggest one, right, Matt, is the Water Street grant stuff to Senator Collins. Would that be?
So that was we're doing congressionally delegated spending requests to Collins and King, and then probably maybe Golden later for the stormwater projects in Main Street.
Sorry, not the Water Street, the water
treatment plant.
Yeah, the water treatment plant.
So that we got the money for that from our last request. So
Okay, I thought he was putting in one more.
that's for stormwater.
Stormwater, okay.
Don't want to mix those up.
Don't want to mix those up. We've had some DOT conversations about the Oak Street project, and sort of it seems like there's a little bit of a misalignment on kind of who's paying for what and who promised for what previously.
Not so much of who's paying for what. So this is pre myself also, but it seems like the history was that DOT presented that they were going to come in and redo that stretch of Oak Street, and somewhere they didn't really just straight budget for it, so they're going for a congressionally delegated spending request for the money to complete that project. Which is fine, because, you know, as long as they get the money into it, they're gonna do it. But they may ask for, a city contribution for better sidewalks. Just kind of talked about, like, they'll just do the regular, like, asphalt ones. If we want, like, nicer ones, we might have to put money up, but those are conversations that will be ongoing, because,
And I say yes to that.
yeah, but there's already granite on either side,
Yeah.
so it's like, can you really ask us to do that? So we'll have conversations with them.
Thank you, Matt.
Excuse me just a second. Michelle?
Yes.
Can you hear Matt?
Yeah, some.
Some.
He's
Okay.
in the distance.
Could, yeah, if you could,
Well, it's nice to have an audience member.
I know, right? There's no one else in the
Matt,
audience.
Matt's
so-
gonna come to the table to, so that you could hear him better.
Yes,
thank you.
so I'll just recap what I said. So, the Maine DOT came to the city for a letter of support for a congressionally delegated spending request of their own. They're going to get that money, or try to get that money to complete the stretch of Oak Street they've agreed to fix and then upgrade. But they said that there may be a request down the line, for the city to contribute some money for, you know, higher quality sidewalks. So instead of just doing like the asphalt sidewalks, doing granite curbing and concrete sidewalks. And those are conversations we still have to have, but, that was added because we couldn't find a record where they officially agreed to like pay for all of that on their own, without city contribution, but they did pay for the planning and engineering of it, which has been ongoing.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Lease options also is something I know we had a long conversation about those pieces in the last budget meeting. I actually followed up with Sean, or I should say Sean followed up with me. He's an expert in these pieces. I think I might bring him back to talk to you all and kind of think holistically about, our sort of fleet, all the cars we have. I think he's actually developed some knowledge. I wish we would have had him there actually that night. I think we could have answered some questions.
And who is Sean?
Captain Willie.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, very well.
And he did the sort of analysis and presentations on the police cruiser lease piece. I think there are some advantages to some of the, potential cost savings, potential sort of predictability. I think, Steve, some of the stuff you mentioned on, how they know things go back and the financing. So I'm going to gather Public Works, him, Fire, and really think about this fleet holistically. It's a big, it's a big expense. So and being able in the next round of budgeting to give council some options on just how we start thinking about this in a more systematic way, which gets.
To speak to that just a little, at one point, somebody from Enterprise was here.
Yeah.
That wouldn't hurt if we could have them speak, because they spoke, they talked a lot about the markets and how they're moving and how they're manipulating their numbers to work and yet giving their customer a fair savings.
Yeah.
So it may not hurt to have them involved.
Totally agree, and Captain Willie mentioned that exact thing. He said they'd love to be here and talk about that, so may even do like a double up, talk with our groups then and the Enterprise folks, then maybe bring them back in. And maybe look around to, not just Enterprise too. Is there another option?
They can't be the only ones that figure this out, right?
Yeah, either the only ones or they're the best at chasing it. Agreed. There must be another piece. I'm always prone to getting at least two on something like this, especially as we're thinking of, long term and a big expense and something we're carrying. But
Great.
which kind of brings me to the last piece is the budget timeline. We've got Fire is going to lead off next week with their capital presentation, followed by police. We'll probably go just police general budget and then capital at the end of that piece. And then I think it's the following week we have our nonprofits and affiliative groups, and that sort of closes out the initial presentations. I know myself and finance and our team are going to kind of recircle the wagons on process, probably recircle the wagons with council maybe through this finance committee on sort of, what next steps, a building of a new budget book, how do we sort of create something that you all feel like you can redline and make the appropriate decisions? Of course, the top line numbers on, how much tax revenue we would anticipate taking in at the previous year's tax rates, other ones, how that matches to, our total requests and, the number we need to get to, what we want our tax rate at, and building towards that, what we can, zero budgeting exercise on how low we could get it, but also matching to the needs of the cities. So it's going to be probably a very busy mid to late May, and then I think it's, what do I have here? Seems like the drop dead deadline is going to be June 17th for our, that council meeting, so that by July 1st in the new fiscal year, we have a budget and we can send things out, so, yeah.
By then, we should have all of the union contracts, so we can build that into the budget as well.
Yeah, and I think paid family leave, I think we've still got to build that in, so there's
And FICA.
FICA, so
What about employee benefits?
I think that should be in
She
there.
put something in there, didn't
Mhm,
she?
yeah.
Yeah.
It also depends on what healthcare plan, if we're gonna change the healthcare plan or offer another. No one had kind of made that decision. That was sort of happening towards the end of the year.
Yeah, the going from the cafeteria plan to bringing back the previous sort of plan option. I'm not quite sure if that's a cost.
No, it was just the healthcare piece, the health insurance piece, going from the, I think it's a PPO to the POSC, which is, I guess it's more comprehensive.
I thought I heard from Carrie that was basically going to be an option for employees to.
So that is gonna be an option?
I don't know if it's going to be, but if it was, that it would be employees could add more or taken away. I didn't think
Yeah.
it was-
Right,
Wasn't
so
an
you're
increased
get-
cost to the city.
More
No.
points.
Right.
And then there was discussion about changing up the personnel ordinance as well.
Yep. Okay. I'll look more into that.
To speak to that a little further, I've brought this up in the past. There's a company called America's Back Office, and not just them, they're a professional employment organization that we use at my business, and they do everything HR. You still have to have Carrie enter, what have you, but they deliver some real strong benefits at a very low price because of their magnitude, much like we're talking about enterprise. I gave her two packets, and like I said, it's a bigger conversation for a bigger time period, but we're providing a $500 deductible Blue Cross Blue Shield plan for every employee, high-end MetLife dental and vision for $908 a month. That's unheard of in this market. And I'm just saying it's an option when you, in a bigger picture, not for this budget season, but in a bigger picture, it might be worth looking into them and others that do this professional employment, because they handle everything for municipalities and businesses, and it's an amazing process.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's right for the city, I'm saying that on a bigger picture, maybe to just have a look at some of those other opportunities, because they're buying insurances for far less from Blue Cross Blue Shield, or others. You can pick what company you want to offer your employees. And they offer 6 different plans of one company. It's worth looking at and talking to them, and I'm not talking for this budget season coming up, I'm talking in a bigger picture. When the dust settles on this budget, maybe look at them in the fall for a following year, or them and others,
Yeah.
because there's a substantial benefit to small business as well as I know they do municipalities.
What was the name again?
It's America's Back Office, ABO. And Carrie has a packet from them. I gave her a couple during union negotiations, just for future reference, not anything more than, it's a look, while you're looking at things like enterprise or car rental leases or what have you, it's something to look at. I'm not saying it's right, I'm saying it's something to look at.
Yeah, I'll definitely look into it. I think, budget season, when it ends, it's in some ways doesn't end. We'll keep on these things. The other thing is the insurance piece. I know at our public safety meeting yesterday, and listening to the budget conversation you all had about that, it was a big increase. I know there was discussion of, hey, should we look out to other vendors and get quotes? And it's also on my radar. It's on my list.
We just stopped filing claims for $1,000 too.
Yeah, we talked with, public safety and the whole gang about that too. I know we have sort of an audited report on what we're going into and what makes sense. And, it was actually interesting to talk to police on sort of their tiering on when you have to do was it driver's safety or defensive driving course? If you've had more than one or two, police just have an automatic, you're into the defensive driving course and sort of a tiering and how public works and others can start thinking about that. And not just from a legal standpoint, but from a safety standpoint for the city, a liability standpoint, and really kind of baking in a lot of those like safety procedures into the organization. So, which I think we do a good job, but we can always do a better job in that piece and maybe save some more money down the line too.
Perhaps a higher deductible to take more risk for the city may make a big difference with the same company.
Yeah, it could be that, and what Ann was saying too,
I agree.
it's not necessarily fine if it's $3,000, maybe the city takes care of it, but because of the
Yeah.
pooled insurance, I need a better idea of, it might make sense on every single thing we do to
There's
toss it in
a
there.
strategy to insurance, and you have to understand how that strategy works and how actuarials work and how they compute your premiums based on your claims history. So if you're filing claims for every little thing, you can expect it to continue to go up astronomically.
That's it on my list. Any other things you all?
Yeah, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
I didn't want to interrupt. Back on the lease, the A.B. Lane,
Yep.
is the title work and stuff been started?
Yeah, so we talked to legal counsels. They're looking into the title insurance and getting that piece. It actually expires on Saturday. Our counsel is pinging them. I talked to Amy yesterday as well to kind of connect the dots on the real estate agent. I think that's I'm learning a lot in this piece, but we don't really have like our real estate, state agent. That's kind of their side. So the other big piece is the time for inspection lapsed. So it seems like we did a lot of due diligence in the building. It looks great, but we never actually had, an independent inspector go there. So we want to look into getting an addendum to the contract that says, hey, you have an additional blank days to do that inspection. I think it's due diligence for the city. So talk to Amy, talk to our legal counsel, waiting to hear back from our real estate person. I'll be following up today to see if they can talk to, was it Bar Harbor Bank and Trust to get that piece added on there and potentially the title insurance as well. I think legal counsel had said that, it seems like there was some pieces that it would be good to have that title insurance on there, not, especially the players that we have involved. Seems
And
like
just
everything's in good
have
faith.
run the
But
title.
what's that?
And just search the title and see what O&Es are and, the standard process. We also need a letter from Bar Harbor, which I can get regarding the funding piece to make it compliant with what the contract says.
Yeah.
I need that letter.
Yeah, so, we have to have title, and I'm pretty positive we'll need title insurance if it's going to be financed anyway, so, although Bar Harbor Bank and Trust built that building, so it's just it's the land. Because is Terry Smith going to act as the real estate agent for both Bar Harbor and us?
That's what we're looking into. Yeah, we just had our first conversation about this yesterday. So we're looking into all the pieces on it. I think one of the process improvements I think on this one is, especially knowing Ann's expertise in real estate and these pieces, is like bringing this side in sooner on these things. So we're kind of we're playing a little bit of catch up, but we're going to get it over the line.
Okay. And then, as far as the auto lease, because Steve said they did come and talk to us about the police department and their leases and things. But my only concern about that lease is those are such low mileage leases compared to the police department leases. I just wanted to make sure that they were, giving us the same bang for our buck, because when you look at that lease, like for the truck for Mike, all that is that's not, usually a lease is down to the value, and then you get to keep the value, but they're gonna pay the value of that truck. They're gonna pay over $50,000 in lease payments. So I just wonder, if we're getting the same bang for our buck because it's a low mileage, or if they even know it's a low mileage.
Yeah, I think, I talked to Captain Willie about that yesterday, and, I think some of the sheet that Mike had and Captain Willie was talking about, is like there were some things that are wrong, or, if you looked at it this way, he had a lot of expertise there. I think that's what we talked about. If we brought the enterprise person, they'd be able to take us, as you said, Steve, like this is a math game for them. They'll be able to explain the math. The captain had on how the value works. There actually could be more value because of the less mileage, and they might ping us early and say, hey, we're going to keep swapping out your fleet at specific times. But again, I think, especially from the complications involved here and the financing and the math and our fleet, it's to think holistically and to kind of get those numbers will be great. And then, and then also some of there's a repair plan that they have, or maintenance plan, so you can just kind of have that be pretty consistent and when they're swapping out. And then the other big piece is, if we went this route, we all saw that truck, we're gonna have to have some policies and procedures on
Yeah.
keeping those things pristine. That if we go this route and we're not buying, how do we create some accountability so that truck, because it's a capital asset for the city in some ways, if we're going this route and flipping
Please
them.
take good care of those. for
Yeah,
sure.
so they need to look like that if we go that route, so. But Michelle,
Yeah. I was shocked with the way that vehicle looked after only 40,000 miles.
Yeah, I should have caught that one too. I probably would have said, Mike, if you're looking to lease, don't send those pictures around. It's an argument against you.
Oh, no, I'm glad you saw it, though, because I'm glad you saw it, because that is awful. And then my last thing is on the budget, when you were saying, trying to figure out the best way to give it to us. If you're running out of time, I mean, the way the budget was given to us last year, the format was okay, just the numbers were wrong.
Yep.
But, but the format, if you want to use the same format this year, and then hopefully we'll have something different next year. But my priority, and this is just me, but my priority is to get numbers together, get correct numbers together, and then so we can begin that discussion of, where we are, where we want to be, and what we'll have to cut to get there, and I'd like to have more time to be able to do that, because the plan had been this year, if it had worked out, that we were going to have like one meeting a week to listen to everybody, and then the next meeting would be discussion about those meetings, about the presentations, and because it's so hard. You have those presentations and you do take some notes and things, but it's really hard to have a good conversation a month and a half after you've heard the first presentation. So
Yeah.
I would like to not spend. I just don't want to cause harm by trying to be perfect about it. I just would like to not cause harm, but delay everything to make it to be perfect. That if we could just get something together that had good numbers, correct numbers, that everybody is confident in, then we could, and get this discussion started sooner rather than later. I just would like to have plenty of time.
Yeah, I think, noted. I think that's the template will be the previous year's budget book. I might toss a different picture in the front. But with the front memo, labels on each tab on what it is, probably a cover sheet on each of the departmentals / other things, so you all can pull out, hey, here's the ARPA, here's the funding, here's the things that are eligible for that, here's the departmental budgets, here's all the staff requests, et cetera, so you guys can redline that. And then most importantly, I won't spend too much time on making the formats perfect, although you should have the decisions points be perfect, but that the numbers are top lines where you're at. This is how much we would get in by this tax rate. This is how much cash on hand we have. Some of those questions are very important. What didn't get spent last year? What's income? What's obligated already. I think we're still a little bit away from that piece, and that's, to me, that's the really important part. So that we're pretty cost stable and we can make these decisions, and then next year not, I know we have a ban that, TAN that we're considering for this, and there was a budget freeze last year, but so that we're in a place when we make this decision where this is how much we're gonna spend, this is how much we're gonna take in, and then we track it month to month, and we're in a place for all of that, is really important. So a lot of work to be done, and especially internally with staff. I think we're gonna talk, I'm spending a lot of time here Saturday to start thinking about that July, or that June 19th date, and working backwards from there, and exactly kind of what the project plan is, so that we can, get you all these things in plenty of time.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I can certainly help.
Yeah.
Because I helped put them together last year, so, and, the formatting of everything on those spreadsheets and stuff, so I can certainly help.
I definitely will take you up on that. I think I saw you in there with, on the TIFs, and some of, I like nothing better than to see a bunch of people gathered around Excel spreadsheets and
I
putting it
love
together.
some spreadsheets, right, Michelle?
So I'll take you up that.
Nerds.
I know, right?
Michelle, I probably might ping you as well and get pretty what are the times when we can bring you all and take your expertise, institutional knowledge on kind of what we need, so that when we bring it into council, we're gonna talk this, here's your decision points, and we can get there, so.
Well, and Tammy's a lot closer than I am, especially now. So she's probably got a lot more ability than I do, and if Tammy's helping, I
Yes.
absolutely trust everything that she does, so,
Great.
financially, so.
The other thing just to think about, I probably should have put this in, is our seniors this tax cycle. As you all know, they got that kind of tax freeze a couple years ago, which has now been taken away. What that's going to do, and I've been talking to Larry about this, there's 600 of our seniors that are going to see kind of what people saw last year, right? Now, if the tax rate remains somewhat similar to what it was last year, they're going to see that increase, plus their valuation increases in ways that, so that's 600 seniors. I'm still doing a cost breakdown with Larry on, what that median increase is going to be, but it's going to be, they've seen it in the news, it was a state program, but for that group of people, their tax rate is going to increase pretty substantially, so just something to be aware of.
I don't know if this is a good, I'm gonna bring this up, and I'm not saying that this is what should happen, because I'm probably the least experienced at this table, but I would just throw this idea out for next year's budget process. If, and maybe we can't do this, maybe it's not a good idea, but aside from the budget process, I have been a fan of 2 meetings a month, Monday, the first Monday and the third Monday of the month, for city council meetings. And I'm wondering if we did that, and you set up an agenda accordingly, but you had an executive session for personnel issues on each, and then cancel if you don't need that. Okay, so it would be set up the same way. So we always had an executive session for personnel issues. Cancel it if you don't need it at the meeting. That way, people aren't all wound up about another executive session, because it's on the agenda each time and you cancel it. And where I'm going with this in this conversation is if we went to 2 meetings a month, could we blend that budget process in the regular meetings, instead of having this flash 5 meetings in 9 days? Is there a way that the budget process could fit into a regular agenda if we met 2 times a month? I don't know all the moving parts of this. I'm just asking the question, because there is a lot of the agendas, and when you reach a certain point in the agenda, you're trying to push through it, and it would give, when you have a holiday on a Monday, you just cancel that meeting, and instead of moving the meeting, because you already have 2 in the month. And if you could put your budgeting process into the 2 meetings, it would be very transparent. There would be less juggling of the schedule like this year where we're canceling tonight and we're moving this and all that. If you have regular meetings, and I don't know if it's possible, I'm asking that question, and it's just a thought for next year.
So, I have an answer to that. So, what Nate and I are planning to do is, you're gonna see departmental spend every month. So you're gonna be sort of tracking along with it through the fiscal year, so that it's not all coming at you at once, 2/3 of the way through the fiscal year. That's our goal. Before we can do that, we have to continue to clean up the accounting, the past accounting, and get to a place. One of the things that we're doing right now is auditing budget lines, which is tedious, but I think it's gonna pay off in the long run. We're making sure that every fund that is funded is on the dashboard of the department head, so they're spending from the right accounts. This has been a problem since I've been here, and reconciling that in Munis was a real trick. So we're going back to kind of basics in the beginning of it, so it becomes very easy to reconcile, very easy to track, and very easy for the department heads to manage, so they're not spending all of their budget in the first half of the year, and then we're having spending freezes. So this is our goal with the accounting here.
And noted, Steve, I know in some of our transition planning sessions, in 2 or 3, that was actually one of the things I noted was you mentioned that about the additional meeting and maybe kind of thinking about that. And people in that small group of 2 counselors were somewhat supportive, and then I mentioned that to another group. They were like, I got too many meetings already. Maybe it's a committee, maybe it's this. So kind of reimagining that space. I also feel like, some budget stuff within the council meeting, and maybe that's in the manager's report, just for some public transparency and kind of where we're at in the process, how we're going, could be considered. But Jan and I also talked about some strategic presentations on departments, so it's not just the budget season when you get kind of a high-level dollars figure, but what people are planning in some ways too. So.
To just comment on that, I think that nobody likes any more meetings, but right now we're having flash meetings. And if we could organize that so we have maybe no more meetings total, but a little smoother flow and a little more balance, that's where my mind goes.
I feel like it's too, I still think you need more budget meetings, and I don't know if I'd be able to fall into the.
Well, that might be true.
And maybe just for a few months, it's not for.
That might be true.
And I just did want to add, I really would love to see, starting July 1st, to have the year-to-date and actuals, because actually, it's in the charter that the treasurer provide those to the city council, so.
Great.
And I haven't seen any since I've been here, so.
Yeah, noted. And the personnel piece too is, so it's not as flashy. I think that's an interesting idea, Steve, on just, hey, we have it on there, you cancel it. If you need to, there's always personnel in any organization that you may or may not need to talk about, then the city manager might want to get council's advice, and less of it being, oh my God.
A surprise session.
Yeah, a surprise session, we're gonna talk about something that's pretty just HR related, and you don't wanna, you're not legally allowed to have a public meeting, so.
And you could scrub that the night of the meeting if there's no.
Yeah, you can.
Right, that way it's a plan, it's consistent, it's not
Right.
turning the community into a roar about what is this about? It would be,
There's other towns that do that. It's on there every.
Maybe we
every
keep it and I
agenda.
just tell you my
We
personal
just-
problems.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, it's all to, tell Charlie what to do, right?
Awesome.
I think it brings more balance.
Yep. And I should also say, just on that note, I know it's not finance, well, some of it is finance related. We've done these special meetings, and I know it's budget season, and we're trying to get a little more clipped on the agendas and does it need a public hearing, and what's our process for that? So that we can maybe, I think to all of your points of what I'm hearing is a little bit more on, we're already having more meetings. We're already having 2.
I know, I didn't even know what to do with myself last night. I'm like,
was
am I
finance.
supposed to be somewhere?
Right, so.
Even if the budget can't go into that, I think some of it could, but if it can't, or maybe It's just something to put on the radar going forward. I'm not saying that it has to happen tomorrow. I'm just saying, could there be more balance, and could there be maybe some of the budgeting process scheduled in that somehow? I don't know if that's possible, but I think more balance would be beneficial to the entire city.
Okay. Noted.
I'm pro balance.
Me too.
I don't know what that looks like, but just
Sure.
on the record, pro balance.
Pro balance, all right.
All right,
Ready?
and
Yeah.
All right, so we're still struggling with the Cassell integration. Not really sure where that's at till Nate gets back. We have a lot of problems with the AP piece. We have technical problems with the software signing people out in the middle of their work, so that's a problem. We're going to be working on, I'm actually going to be teaching Nate how to do the PUC report, which is due this next week. And, like I said, what we're planning for accounting and for finance going forward. But again, there's a lot of cleanup and it doesn't happen all at once. So it's going to take a little bit of time, plus we have to get this software up and running and working correctly. I'm also planning I spoke briefly with Jim Safian about the school loan for the revolving fund. And apparently they're having their consultant fill out the rest of the application. I gave her the city's piece, which is the part that has numbers from the city, and then Carolyn's having a consultant help her complete the rest of it. Fiscal year '23 audit should be completed close to the end of this month. Everybody pray for that because I need it. And still waiting on the paychecks transfer into Cassell. I'm not really sure why it's taking them so long. I spoke to Nate yesterday, Nate from IT. He didn't know either, so I have a call into the lady at Paychex who's supposed to be making that happen.
can
other
I
than-
just, is there any way that maybe you can call in Readily Cage?
Yep.
And, I mean, this has been going on since they went with Paychex, that they were supposed to get us this information. This is holding us back from our budget, too.
Yep.
So, in order to reconcile. So, with Charlie's charm,
Yeah, I can give some.
like you have some time, but, right?
No,
I just
no,
think, you
I
know,
always have
I'd
time for
say it's
budget.
being pushed by the council.
I always have time for budget.
Okay.
I'm willing to drop a lot of other things.
To speak to that a little bit, nothing against paychecks, but that's a very competitive market, and those companies come in and compete for your business at a low price with low service.
Yep.
And I'd rather have a higher price and accurate numbers and better service. That's where I'm at. And I'm not saying anything about paychecks or whatever company may do it. That whole market is so competitive, they can't do a good job.
Yep. Yeah, and we're still learning. I'm gonna get the system. We'll keep talking. There's, I think there's stuff we can do internally. I think there's stuff vendor-wise in terms of vendor management, expectations, and at least when I've done these processes before, and I've done them a few times, especially in big reconciliations and other things, is you feel like you're kind of pot committed to a vendor, you've paid money, and then it sort of creates some interesting dynamics. But I've also cut bait on vendors, and I've told them that, hey, this is our contract, but there's also things built in, to break a contract and to move in a different direction if need be, and people don't like to do that. But we need the best service for this, so we'll definitely keep that in mind.
And sometimes, and I'm not trying to spend more money, but sometimes paying the existing vendor more money for better service shouldn't be out of the question.
Yep.
I'm not talking about, oh, these people are no good. Well, maybe we're only getting what we paid for. Maybe we should have negotiated a little better price for them to get the services that we expect. Much like happened with the beautification bid. We took a bid that was half of everybody else, and we got a third of everybody else.
Yeah.
So that's just food for thought.
Yeah, and Paychex has, there was a W-2 error, which we've sent out to the staff affected. Fortunately, there's, I think, a 6 or 8 week delay in the main state taxes. It didn't affect the federal side, but it's affecting
That
the.
wasn't a paycheck error, though.
Well, to get it redone, it's not a Paychex error.
Yeah,
it
we
was-
submitted incorrect information.
But to get it redone, there's a Paychex email I have that's, 6 weeks. They said it's gonna be 6 weeks to redo that. I mean, that's not a 6-week process. It's a workflow process that should take somebody less than a day,
Right.
to send it out. So, yeah, it is our error. But, errors happen and you wanna fix them and, they're gonna continue to happen and we wanna continue to fix them. So, 6 weeks isn't acceptable on that, and, maybe I have to come in on that piece, and that gives me an excuse to dig through some other things too, so,
Thank you.
yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to put anything else on your list.
No,
It's now a
but,
book, so.
keep putting it, especially if it's budget related, that's what I want in here, and, this is my list, and sometimes I do really well getting to things, and some of this is for 6, 8, 10 months from now, but, and some of it's for Matt. Oh, sorry, back to Ann.
Sorry.
That's really it. We've got 941 coming up. We just do the filing of it. And we're continuing, like I said, to work line by line through the budget to make sure that we've captured everything that's going to be in it. And more importantly, from our side operationally, that the department heads know what their budget is, what accounts to use, because a lot of mayhem has been caused by things getting coded incorrectly. Then you have to search it out and change it around and move the numbers, and we're really trying to avoid that because we think if we can get that part really solid, it makes it easier to do reports for you guys that are timely and accurate and useful.
Yeah. Kind of, if there's anything else that's related to that, but also kind of a broader question on finance committee meetings and, okay. So like one thing, looking at the warrant, you don't know what department is spending that money, right? So books, we spent a lot of money on books. I'm guessing that's the library?
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, I'm okay if the library is spending a lot of money on books, but if it's wastewater, I'm like, okay. Well, like,
Yeah,
so I don't know if that's a way to add a column at some point that just says like what
Yeah,
department
I'll look
made
into
that
that for
spend.
sure.
And then that kind of relates to if we're able to then get to the point where we are now, the departments know what they have and what they're, even having part of the warrant being like, and then here's what, Public Works spent this week, here's what, library spent, and then we know like where they're at and what they have
Yeah.
left as part of the warrant. And I don't think it changes whether or not we sign the warrant, but it just keeps everyone more informed.
Yeah, that's our goal, definitely.
Yeah, so
Monthly.
if that, but then that might be an easy way to keep the council informed with the warrant. So that's just a thought. And then another thing too, these finance committees, meetings are great, and but I wonder if, maybe we should start doing minutes to share with the council, because there's just a lot discussed. And so has that ever been discussed, or?
Well, they're recorded because it was requested that it be recorded so that other
Yeah.
counselors would be able to go back. And I understand that there always isn't time, but
Yeah.
I think the information that's within these meetings is important, and I
Yeah.
do feel that they probably could watch them. But I take minutes so that we do have a record of it, but I don't
Okay.
send it out to anybody.
Yeah, is that, maybe we should start just sending minutes to the council?
Yeah, that means I'm gonna have to write complete sentences.
Well, that's why I don't know about for
Yeah, I
you.
can
No,
do
but
that, yeah.
maybe like Maura, or so we have someone with this. Again, I'm not trying to put Maura.
And Maura's out in a week and a half, so.
Well, that's true. But yeah, but
Yeah,
no,
no,
maybe
no,
it's
no,
not
I can
Maura,
do
but
it,
if
it's
just
I've gotta find time.
Yeah.
because I know like I may not be on the finance committee next year, right? And but I really get a lot of value from, because I'm learning. Obviously the finances of the city are so critical part of how the city operates, and so when I get to city council, the main meetings, I already know a lot of what's coming at us, but I know some of the other councilors don't. So I'm just trying to think about how to keep the council best informed, and then if I'm not on finance committee, I want to make sure I'm informed, and,
That makes
I don't know
sense.
if
No,
I
it
have the
really
time
does.
to go, like, watch the finance committee meeting, but if I can, like, slam through the minutes in 10 minutes,
Okay.
and then if I have questions, I can reach out. So that's just a thought. The last thing is,
I mean, they're gonna be very, very, like, brief.
well, that's,
so-
and that's,
yeah,
and that's
okay.
fine. It's just like, oh, what is this new thing they're talking about? I'll reach out to,
Okay.
Ann and say, hey, like.
Can we start it next week, though?
There's none of this is,
July
let's do it.
1st.
I know how slammed we are right now, and I'm not saying I want this right away, or, and again, I'm just throwing it out there. But those are just two thoughts, now that I'm getting up to speed more on everything. Yeah, just being able to know what department's spending the money and all that. Last thing is the roof for the Moore Center, 80 grand. I'm assuming that was, we've been
ARPA.
anticipate, was ARPA?
ARPA
Okay,
from
all right.
last- yeah.
Did we
Great.
approve that through?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
don't remember
I
it, but-
exhaustively
You do remember, okay.
researched
Okay.
that to make sure before I spent.
That's
the
all
money.
I have.
And it was reflected in your ARPA worksheet that I gave you for budget this year, so it's already out of there.
Okay, all right, great.
Yeah, I love the first one. On just the warrant, I kind of have the same thing. I'm just sifting through papers.
Yeah, you're right, I don't really know what
We're
this-
still in the like I said, we're having a
Yeah,
lot of trouble
context,
with that
exactly.
software.
I'm a context guy.
Context, and then the piece I saw, I think it was Auburn, that has they have a lot of good data visualizations on like really day-to-day tracking and kind of where you're at by department, budget actuals, and if we're having this meeting, yeah, you have that, you kind of know where you're at, you feel confident in it, you can see spikes, you can see trends, getting, and again, that, to your point, Patrick, that might not be June 1, or July 1, but getting to that level, and where it's institutionalized and pretty, and kind of what's in this warrant, what's driving the spending, where are we at, how that relates to our budget, I think is super important. So noted. The second piece, I'm kind of two minds on that, which one is, yeah, I'm thinking, and I always think of this when I get council requests is, okay, what's the hours that would be, in a year on, 52 weeks times X amount of minutes times this, how we operationalize that, what would we do for others, maybe it's, like you said, Tammy, I don't want to put too
Well,
much.
because I'm the chair for the finance committee, then I'll do better.
Oh, I get it.
So,
No,
just,
it's just a thought, because I just know there's a lot that gets talked about here, as it should be.
Yeah.
And it's really important for how, the council makes its decisions, and just trying to think about how we can keep the council best informed. And if, maybe it's not the minutes, maybe it's, you can watch it if you need to, and I know some of the council.
Yeah, maybe I just, like, key points and then,
Yeah.
see the count.
Well, yeah, you can just say key points, and then if someone has a question, they can just, at least they see it in order, like, okay, I'll go watch the feed, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, no, I've just gotta
Yeah.
change my,
And then in addition to
My
that,
format.
a shorter set of minutes, maybe at every council meeting, just during committee reports, there's like a summary of the past month's like finance
Oh,
committee
Yeah,
meetings or
yeah,
something like that.
look at that, see, and that can just be based on simple minutes. And, and if I'm gonna say, let's keep minutes, I will keep minutes days you're not here, or whatever.
Thank you.
If I put my
Yeah.
money where my mouth is here.
What about,
My minutes will be horrible. Talked about money.
is there someone in staff that could come into these meetings and keep minutes so that you could be more participating?
Well, that's what I think,
Is that what you're thinking?
I think that's.
Well, that's what I think when I hear that. It's yes, we could. There's a lot of things
Okay.
I'd like additional staff to do. And I like Patrick's idea of if you make an offer, what's something you want done? Maybe you're the first.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a great public safety meeting yesterday that I thought was really well run by Thomas. I think Callahan is his name.
Canada.
With our fire department, and there's a public safety committee, and they're sort of in some ways because of the insurance like it's a requirement, but they had a good format for here was the past meetings. It was just like, 5 or 6 things on the previous meeting, and then here's this meeting's kind of agenda and 5 or 6 things, and it's blocked off with the logo and Ellsworth. I was like, that's great.
I think that's
Yeah,
all,
that's
it's,
fine.
again, it's just like situational awareness, right? Like, so then and then it gets sent out, right? And then the council's like, oh, okay, what's this about, this matter? And then they can go watch the minutes. Or
Yeah.
they can harass Tammy or me, or,
Like, hey, we talked
Just
about
harass Steve.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
trust Steve.
I'm a phone guy.
Yeah.
No,
Or,
I
you
don't
can reach
mind
out
doing
to
it. I
finance, you
don't-
can reach out to Ann.
I don't mind
Sure.
doing it. Okay, so.
Yeah, or hey, we talked about Avery Lane last time. Did you do that, Charlie? What's going on with that? Or somebody wants
Yeah,
an update on
something,
it?
yeah.
You
Yeah,
know.
just, yeah, not trying to make more work.
I mean,
for
it's
folks,
not
just
horrible what I've
wanna
done,
keep
you
people
know.
updated. Cause yeah, I know like, when we get to the council meeting, I've kind of had this sneak preview, so like, I don't have to, I can kind of relax a little bit more about trying to figure out what's going on and more, context, big picture, thinking about decisions.
We're getting to a point too, it's not, I don't think it's this year, maybe not even next year, but the AI stuff is coming. I know it's created problems because some people say, oh, we just let the AI do it, but there are cities, and I want to do more research on this, that are using their video cameras for minutes and other things. And when I was at the Kennedy School, there was also kind of weird stuff where it knows who's there, who spoke.
It's kind of creepy at times.
It's super
right?
creepy. It'll give you a report on, even in these meetings, hey, Charlie's spoken for 32% of the time, and then you can be like, ooh, I'm talking too much.
And that's all AI. That's
gonna be me.
Yeah, if you
No.
pre-program it, you can do gender balance, making sure that the men aren't talking, which is
Wow.
something in society that happens a lot. And you can do, there's other pieces. They can do ethnic breakdowns too, which is, really creepy. But I had a professor bring up I didn't know it was happening, but, he brings up the report on the last 4 months of conversations in this room, and just by breakdown.
White men are talking too much.
Yeah. Actually, it was surprising in that it was fairly balanced. I can go on, and I won't say too much, but there were some demographic breakouts that were really fascinating.
I'd like to share something that I learned at the last workshop that I didn't know. This is my third year. And that's that wastewater is absorbing everybody's sewer bill within the municipality. Okay, now, I have been very critical of the finances of the sewer treatment plant since I was here. Now, Tammy knows this, and so does Michelle, but when I took a city tour, when I was elected, I heard from the manager of the wastewater of how much money they were making. And I came back to City Hall and asked for the financials, because I saw all these trucks coming in and trash pumps pumping around the system and all that. And I've been very critical of that, because when I opened that up, it was $460,000 loss, 300 of which was depreciation. 160, and I'm using round numbers, was actual cash loss. So I been very critical of that department and taking in outside waste and wearing out our plant ahead of time, ahead of the debt, if you will. So when I heard last night that, I've been whining about this for 2.5 years, and then I learned that that department is absorbing everybody else's sewer cost. I had no clue of that. And I'm not sure that's good accounting. And here at the finance department, I just want to bring that up, because I've been super critical of that. And maybe there could be some footnotes on that financial somehow, or if short of billing, they must have the number of gallons that go through the
Oh,
other
yeah, they still
departments.
have-
So something that would have, when I saw that big loss and I start whining about it, and now I just learned 2.5 years later that this department is absorbing other people's bills within the city.
Yeah.
Like here, you're paying for the water, but you're not paying for the sewer. And if we're not gonna have good accounting and do it the same and balance sewer and water, where City Hall pays their water bill and the school pays their water bill, or what have you, if that seems to be too convoluted for the system, at least some footnotes in the accounting of the financials, because it looks horrible, and then I find out that, gee, that
would
poor
be-
department that I've been beating on is absorbing other departments',
Costs.
and I only learned that last night, last
Wednesday.
It all blends together.
yeah, I know, right. So Just a footnote, or maybe look at billing, internal billing, like the
Yeah,
water department.
Ann and I had a good, I'd say, argument on this when it comes to police and like the lease piece. You know, they didn't previously have sort of an overhead type. Now they're in a leased building, now it's there, so do you count that as an increase to their budget? Is it something, we don't charge fire for renting our building, or the city manager's office for renting our building, or the, you know, the IT department. But those are shared services, those are shared costs, how you account for them, and I think that's, and all that public work stuff. I know, Michelle, this is something near and dear to your heart. You know, I on how much you told me, I think, coming into the job, on how interesting and fascinating how that all works, and,
Just something to think about.
Yeah.
Because if nothing else, noted for financials.
yeah.
So just so you know, we can get all the information from, they use the water meter as the sewer meter as
Right.
well. So it basically,
It's
how
a
many
double.
gallons is going through there, you pretty much, it's going to leave, you know, so.
Right, but if
and
they're
then-
paying for water, and
Yeah.
and that poor department that I've been critical of for 2.5 years has been absorbing other departments' bills.
So, you know, I think maybe something to look at for next year's budget.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
if they
I'm
wanna
not saying
kinda-
change it tomorrow, but.
But it's
And-
gonna increase the taxes.
It is, and we got, you know, obviously we have a lot of things going on with, you know, maybe a water treatment plant, and how that kind of fundraise or financing works, and PUC and rates. And I will say, you know, it's a lot cheaper here in Ellsworth than Castine. I mean, I think I'm gonna get a separate meter on mine, because they charge me for what we take in and what we bring out, but some of that
But you guys
goes.
get like, isn't it like 12 cents
Yeah, it's-
per gallon? Like, we did a study one time and I was like, oh my gosh, Castine is
Oh,
so
it's
expensive.
wild. Now, the fact that we have, I think when they mentioned, I think Nancy was talking about sending the new VAC around to all the cities and towns. Like, well, nobody really has these things anyways, which I thought was interesting, except for Castine, which is this tiny little city with its own, full system. You're not even allowed to dig a well anymore because you want people on
Yeah.
the system itself.
Castine's a special place.
Very special. I'm telling you, I'm gonna drive that vac truck. I'm gonna get it out there. I'll charge them too.
Good paperwork makes good friends.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right, does anyone have anything else? I'm sorry, I don't mean to rush, I just have to go back to work.
we're going.
All right, Nate, new
meeting.
Nate?
I'm good, thank you though.
Nate the Great.
You guys got all the paperwork for next
Yes,
week's meeting?
thank you.
I know it's not the cleanest, but will have copies for you guys on Wednesday.
Yeah, no, it's great, I think, you know, being able to look at it. before
Okay.
we get there is